Okay, I'm back, man. It's been a minute and I've been gone. I had got locked up. They had put another 30-day hold on a nigga. I would like to first say thank you for all the people who reached out to see if I was okay because they didn't notice. And if you didn't reach out to see if I was okay, I kind of want to say fuck you, but I'm not going to say fuck you because fuck you. All right, boom. So coming in hot. You know what I'm saying? What up, Jason? Listen, because they didn't check on me. I could have been fucked up. They ain't even check on me and see about me. Damn, dog. Anyway, I'm back. And I got to show y'all something. So I'm out of debate mode, great. But I happen to have, prior to the debate, I went on Sanetta's channel and did a little thing kind of leading up to the debate. And damn, dog, but prior to the debate, I went on Sanetta's channel and did a little talk. And I be forgetting that these things live on the internet, right? I be forgetting that these things live on the internet. Lo and behold, some Christian apologetics got a hold to one of my videos. Nice size channel too, about 11,000 followers on their channel. And they decided that they wanted to tear up what I said. And I was like, okay, buckos, if that's what y'all want to do, I'm here for it. So I want to show y'all this. Because on the one hand, I'm flattered. Because that means I said something that was worthy of a response. Whether they thought I was right or wrong is irrelevant. But I said something that at least touched the heart, touched the hearts of the brothers. So I want to give us the opportunity, but I want to show y'all something though. And this is why I brought this on here. This is gonna take me probably about 20 minutes to do, maybe 30 minutes. I hope not to be before you're long. Understand me? But I'm gonna show y'all this. This really had kind of got me. I'm gonna show y'all this over here. I got to get the video. I'm gonna add the video here. Because the brothers had something they wanted to tell me. And I'm not sure that they paid attention to what I was saying. Okay, so these are the brothers right here. Adam Coleman and Matt Action Jackson, right? They discussed the many errors of black atheists, Sebastian Cole. The many, many errors. Okay, I might have to do this in pieces because, as you can see, this is a 2-hour-long video. I'm not going to sit here for 2 hours and do this with these brothers, right? I want to start by saying I appreciate the brothers for discussing my many errors. Okay. Now I do have to say this one thing about them discussing my many errors. Okay. I done made it, Carl. I done made it. Okay. Pastor Carl, I done made it. Okay. All right. But they discussed the many. Now, see, here's the thing about discussing my many errors. Come on, somebody. 13 neighbor. Discussing my many errors. See, if you want to discuss my many errors, it would be beneficial. Oh, glory. Hey, to discuss them with none other than yours truly. You understand me, right? Because if you care about my errors, that will be the detriment to my soul. When I think of the goodness, see, my soul, you got to think about my soul. Yeah. If you're going to correct me, then it would be beneficial to correct me. Okay, that's fine. Maybe you didn't want to correct me. Maybe you thought to yourself, hallelujah. Maybe you thought, the brothers thought for a second, well, maybe he's long gone. We can't reach out and get the brother. Let's keep him from spreading these errors to the new people. But wait, let me get into it. I kind of want to just start from the beginning, but let me just go back. Let's just go here. Let me just go back. I'm gonna start about right here. Tell me if y'all can hear this.
Yeah, man, that's like an art right there.
Can y'all hear this?
Art right there.
Y'all hear it?
I like the way Vocab does. He come in with the music, and then he'd be like, "Let's go." And then he hit, So I'm aiming for that, So we'll see.
I got to come out.
Right. Well, Bookhead, man, he has like all the sound effects and like the echoes and stuff. He's a Star Wars head, so I think that's kind of what contributes.
This is the warm up. They warming up.
So while I'm sharing this, man, tell us what's been going on with you, man. Then we're going to go ahead and get into the information of why we're here, man. Just kind of let people know what you've been up to, what you're doing.
Let me skip past all this. I don't want to do it. I just don't want y'all to think I'm taking it in no wrong context.
Man, we talking just about like a daily basis. I'm pretty sure. And we've been seeing people,
let's keep on forward all that.
Kind of a guy, and he was recently on Sinetta. I mean, he's going hard for atheism, bro. Like he's really he's not playing around, man. He's really trying to push it. You know what I'm saying? He's really trying to push it. And
I would like to start by saying I am by no means trying to push atheism on anyone. I make this clear as the day is long. I do not give a fuck about what you believe. I should say that again. I do not give a fuck about what you believe. I care about the person that you are. You can believe in 99 gods, no gods, 3 gods, 17 gods, a flying spaghetti god. I don't care about that. I care about the person that you are. Pastor Carl know this about me, and you ain't never heard me say, Carl, put your gods down. Yeah, you ain't never heard me say that. I ain't never told nobody that. Okay, but he said I was going hard. Yeah, he said I was going. Okay, but let's just keep going.
Thoughts on that, because we've talked a lot about it, but before we get into this video clip, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, Sinetta's channel is like the Apollo. Once you make it to his platform, you've arrived.
That's the big time right there. Yeah,
that's the big time. Sinetta's like the Don King of the conscious community. And I have been watching Mr. Sebastian Cole for a minute, and we would see him give these talks where he's it seemed like he's constantly doing reductio ad absurdums to certain either political viewpoints or things within the culture that just are kind of dumb, and he would be giving these little talks on his Facebook Live channel. So I kind of heard him. He's kind of charismatic, very entertaining.
I appreciate that.
Has a nice voice.
I thank you.
So I heard him. So I've been watching him, and then lo and behold, Sinetta has him on his channel, and this has been something that Sinetta's doing. He's kind of easing atheism onto his audience. I think that you pointed this.
Wait a minute. Wait. I got to say this. Easing atheism onto his audience. Sinetta, if you've ever been on Sinetta's channel, Sinetta is the home of all things Black and spiritual. If you've ever been on his channel, if you've ever seen it, he'll have people who follow Kemetic science, people who into crystals, people who into Islam, people who into Judaism, Black Hebrew Israelites, Rastafari, any type of religion you want to talk about. He will have you on there, including atheists. Okay? Including atheists. But all of a sudden, Sinetta is easing. Okay. Let me just keep going.
It's out years ago that Kemeticism was just kind of sort of a doorway.
Ooh, the Kemeticism is the gateway
that would lead to this. I think you was the first to call it. And bingo.
Yeah, man. I mean, so I have been saying it for a while. I'm not saying like I'm a prophet or something like that.
Yeah.
But I do believe that.
But I do want to take a moment to shout this out, though. Shout out to my man with the Imago Dei shirt on. You know what I'm saying? And he's going to mention a little bit about the Imago Dei in a little while. And it's kind of what prompted me to do this video. This is what he says about the Imago Dei. I wasn't really tripping about the video. I kind of thought the video it's almost flattering that but I'm going to talk about, it's this Imago Dei shirt, the guy in the white shirt right here. The Imago Dei shirt. I want to talk about that for just a second.
Most of these Afrocentric I'm just calling them Afrocentric just for the sake of people understand what we're talking about. But many of these Afrocentric worldviews, spiritual systems, so forth, I think that for African Americans, they're often kind of gateway drugs to some form of atheism in the strong form, or some sort of agnosticism. I think it just kind of.
My man called it a gateway drug. See, okay. See, that in and of itself is rooted in so much racism and inaccuracy. If you know the story of the gateway drug, y'all know weed was often considered a gateway drug into harder drugs, which isn't true, by the way. But it was led that way in the fight against marijuana in the urban communities. Okay. And now all of a sudden, Comedicism is the gateway drug to atheism. As if atheism is somehow as detrimental to a person as crack or something. Oh, Father, help us. Let me just keep going. Let me just keep on going. Let me go.
It's kind of like a layover. You know what I'm saying? When you're traveling a long distance and you have a layover in a particular city, I think many of these worldviews are a layover. But for many of the end destination is atheism, because I think honestly, particularly for people who are coming from a more who has some sort of education or whatever, these claims that a lot of these worldviews are making are just garbage. I mean, and no rational person can hold to them. And so, you might invest yourself into them for a while, but ultimately it just doesn't hold up. And so I think that a lot of people may get there and then end up, as an atheist. And, actually you'll see in this video, this guy actually describes that very thing. You know what I'm saying? Where
and now
he makes this transition.
Like he don't know my name. My name is right there.
He says he was.
Now I'm just this guy
making his way toward being an atheist.
I'm just.
And
this
so
guy
for
now.
somebody like myself, I think that while it's not blowing up necessarily right now, this whole thing about atheism in the African American context, I do think that it's something that we're going to see on the rise, continually on the rise. I think that unless the Lord intervenes, there'll be a sharp spike in it within a relatively short time. So we need to make sure that we're equipping ourselves with defenses for the biblical worldview.
Why are you equipping yourself with defenses? Why are you equipping yourself with defenses? For what? I'm not here to offend you. I do not care what you believe. I do not care what you believe. Why are you equipping yourself? What is the point of your equipping yourself? No, I want to talk. Why are you equipping yourself with defenses? I would not equip myself with defenses. I come into any conversation willing to hear what the person has to say and be reasonable and rational, because my opinion, my measure of being convinced can be moved based on rational arguments. I do not come into this conversation with a defense. Why should you come into the conversation with a defense? If what I said makes sense, then you should chew that. If it don't make sense, spit it out. No need to defend yourself. I'm not going to say your mother's a whore. Right? Right? Like that I'm not going to say anything personal about you. What is the point of your defense? Let me continue. Let me continue.
To address the types of objections and questions that they bring to bear, man. I think that's important. Which, of course, is why I wrote my chapter here in the Urban Apologetics book. I promise you, I feel like I'm doing this too much now, but I like the fact it just comes up in conversation. You know what I mean? So I have to, I wrote chapter 11 here on Black atheism, so people can check that out. And I got to pause for a second and say shout out to my brother Phil Fox, man, for the super chat, man. Wow, thank you, bro. I appreciate that, my man. I appreciate that.
Somebody gave him $50 just
Phil Fox, man. He's been a supporter of the show.
That.
I've been on his show. Y'all make sure you subscribe to Mr. Phil Fox and his channel.
I like $50.
He's definitely
maybe
got
I should start preaching good news in the gospel. Maybe I can get $50.
Ministries rather, and he's
definitely
great dude. Thank you, bro, for the super chat, man. I really definitely appreciate that. And I got another child on the way, so you know what? That's gonna go directly towards diapers. So my kids appreciate it too. These diapers ain't no joke, you know.
Hey, son, I like that.
People probably know that I got another number 5 on the way, man. So y'all be in prayer for your boy.
That's a whole squad right there.
Yeah, man. We gotta start in 5, man. We gotta start in 5. Okay, man. I need to start getting them in the gym now. You know what I mean?
I like that for them. I can't
they grow up. That's my retirement plan at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Your ministry can be fully funded.
Yeah, man. Yes, sir.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
So yeah, man. I guess we'll go ahead and get into the video. This is a good old fashioned breakdown. You know what I mean?
We're gonna break me down.
I had some slides.
He made some slides, y'all.
Okay, somebody says
the brother made some slides because he took his time. See, this didn't come out to the 26th. I did this on the 13th of August, so he took 2 weeks. He made slides, Jesus, for something that I did off the top of my head. He made slides, Father God. Okay, come on.
Okay, yeah. All right. So somebody asked a question. We'll get the questions probably at the end. So we'll work our way through some information. If we have some time, we'll get questions at the end. But we do have some content that we want to get out, and we'll get back to that. So if the moderators can keep track of questions as they come up, and if you do have a question, then we'll get to that. Towards the end of the broadcast, we always answer super chat questions first, just out of respect for those who are given to the channel, and then any other questions we'll try to tackle them as we can. All right, so all right, let's get it in, man. Let's take a look at this clip. Now, here's the thing, y'all know how I can get down. I mean, and Matt Jackson's the same way. Like this, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that this video right here. Oh wow, okay, dang, I got it. Phil Fox, man, he's back in the game, man. He's hitting us with another, man. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. Man, wow, yeah, I'm just humbled, man. I'm
$100 for Phil Fox.
Bless you, Reverend.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I mean, I joke around a lot, but it's really stuff
maybe
like
I'm serving it wrong.
God, do what it is that we
get
do
to the
$100
God.
Y'all, I mean, for anybody who knows, has been following the channel for a while, y'all see some of the funky backgrounds and where I was struggling with trying to edit stuff and all those all of that support comes together and it allows me to
contact
put out a better product for people to see if you got that we got going.
Come on, somebody.
It allows me to dedicate the time to it in order to put into it, that kind of stuff. So seriously, I really appreciate it. So again, we're gonna go through these clips, man, and this one could have been a 4-hour deal right here, bro. As far as our responses, man, like we this man said, and no disrespect to Sebastian Cole, I don't know the brother. He seems like a nice guy, but he says so many things that were just all based. Like we really could have. I'm not exaggerating. We really could have done 4 hours of responses. But for this segment, we're not gonna hit y'all with 4 hours. Y'all can breathe easy. We're not gonna do you like that.
We got time.
We're just gonna review a couple clips.
Just hit me with a couple clips.
And then we'll finish it out on my man MJ's channel. We'll do like a part 2 to this, right?
It's gonna have a part 2.
He's on Sinetta's channel and he's answered some questions. Just to kind of set up the context. Apparently, he had a previous conversation with a gentleman where they were setting up a debate or something like that, and he was covering points that he made in that previous conversation. So yeah, somebody said Adam got hyped for 4 hours.
But come on,
pretty much. Y'all know how we do. You say I definitely could have. This could have been a 4-hour joint, man.
Right? Okay, but just come on.
All right, so here we go. Let me cue up the video.
Cue it up,
and we're gonna get started here.
Go ahead and get started.
I see you got that Baptist preacher wipe going over there, MJ. That must mean you really about to come with some fire, bro. I see it in you, man.
Come with some fire.
Hot already, boy.
We'll see.
Ready to go in, man.
Yeah, come on, let's just get to it, brothers.
All right, give me a second here. Let me bring up the video. All right. And if you haven't already, hit that like button.
I'm trying to. I don't want to miss none of it.
I think.
What was it like for you growing up?
Okay.
Let me get my little caveat. I'm pretty sure I edited out all the cuss words.
I'm
But
finna
just in
put
case,
them
you know, we just,
motherfuckers
you know,
right back in
guard your
here.
wife, guard your kids, or something like that.
Cause I'm finna say
never
fuck a lot.
All right, let me just I just want to preface that in case we have any kids.
I'm finna say fuck
All
a
right, here we go.
fuck ton. Right here.
So, what was it like for you growing up?
Now, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, first and foremost. Heart of the Bible Belt. I'm the son of two pastors. I actually studied theology for a master's degree. You know, so I grew up quite the Christian, quite the believer. Was very dead set. I even was a Hebrew Israelite for a while, right?
Oh,
and so I walked that path. But what led me down the Hebrew Israelite path was the fact that I felt like the normal Christian hypothesis just didn't answer enough questions. I felt like the Hebrew hypothesis answered more questions than the normal Christian hypothesis. But then I kept asking questions and realized the Hebrew hypothesis didn't answer that either. So just over time, I felt my belief slipping away. No disrespect. No disrespect to those who practice that, Christianity or Hebrew Israelite or Islam or whatever you may practice. But my inquiring mind led me to keep asking questions. And the more questions I asked, the more answers I got. And I just felt my belief slipping away in the overall. Now let me start here. Let me start by saying, did anyone hear me say anything that would cause you to think that I'm telling you to put your God down? Did you not hear me say, no disrespect to whatever you may practice? I'm talking about my own personal belief. Did anybody see that? No disrespect to whatever you may believe in. I asked some questions. Personally, I asked some questions that I didn't get answers to. Right? Did y'all see that? I asked some questions that I didn't get answers to. Okay, all right. Let me keep going.
All right, so that's the first clip right there, man. I got a few things I want to say on that, but MJ, you want to take the first stab at it, bro?
Take a stab at it, bro.
Yeah, this brother makes an excellent case study for what we're doing tonight and for what you have been doing in your last two dialogues
case study
on Mr. Sinetta's channel. Okay. I want you to look at, well, one, I just want to point out something subtly. This brother went from Christianity to Hebrew Israelism, and he said that the Christian hypothesis was not answering a certain question. I would think that people would most likely only go to Hebrew Israelism for things having to do with identity that they feel like Christianity is not answering. But he used the word hypothesis.
Let me stop right there. Let me start. Let me get you together. I did not. Okay. Again, I grew up as a staunch Christian. Right. Studied a lot. I studied a lot. I studied a lot. I taught many a Bible study. And I remember when I got to a point where things just did not connect for me. One of the things that did not connect for me, and this is how you know that I spent a lot of time reading and searching. One of the things that did not connect for me was the lack of feminine energy in what is known as the Godhead. My mother's here, she'll attest to this. It didn't sit right with me that God the Father and God the Spirit gave birth to a son, especially under the mind frame of my conservative thinking that a family unit should be a mother, father, and son. It did not sit right with me at that point in time that God the Father and God the Spirit, both masculine energies, gave birth to another masculine son. I felt like that was very misogynistic, even. Right. But as I began to continue to study, I actually did. I rationalized in myself a feminine presence in the spirit. Right. But as I began to do that, what I had to do was I had to kind of leave my basic Christianity, which was very Western. We kind of take it at face value. And I started to infer. Right. I began to kind of infer, and the way I got to that inference, my mother will tell you, was that I started to look into Hebrew, right? So, and it wasn't that I hopped straight from Christianity to Black Hebrew Israelite, it's that I went from Christianity to the Hebraic roots of Christianity, and then from that into Black Israelitism, right? So my issue was, again, there was a lot. I had a lot of questions and these start from years ago. I remember one of the first times I ever got in trouble at church. I couldn't have been no older than 5, and my mama attested this. I was sitting in church. I was at a Bible study with me, my grandma, and my mama. I will not forget this. I was sitting on the left side, facing the church. I'm sitting on the left side, probably at about pew 4 or 5, not that far back. I'm sitting close to the middle of the aisle, though, so it's probably like my grandma sitting on my left, my mama probably sitting on my right, and maybe 2 other people sitting next to her. But we sitting there in that thing, and he's preaching up, and my Pastor Perry was talking about. He's talking about Adam and Eve and talking about the downfall, the fall of man. And he's talking about how they ate from the fruit. And I raised my hand and I said, well, that seemed like that was Adam's fault because God didn't tell Eve. And I remember I said this, God didn't tell Eve squat. I had just learned the bad word squat. Right? And my grandma pinched me because I was supposed to say squat. Because I wasn't supposed to say that like that. But I had that question even as a 5-year-old. That didn't seem very logical to me at 5 that God had given Adam a commandment, and then but somehow this was Eve's fault. God didn't give Eve that commandment. God gave this was me as a 5-year-old. Okay, so I always been inquisitive, always trying to get understanding. Now, of course, later on somebody give me the ad hoc. Oh, well, it was the man who was supposed. Whatever. What I'm saying is that didn't make sense to me at 5. Okay. And so being an inquiring mind, being the kind of person that wants to know things, I keep on looking, I keep on reading, but I remain a believer, very much so a believer. I continue to go down that road. Now, but I'm gonna get back to something that he says here. Hold on, watch this. He's gonna talk about what my use of the word hypothesis.
Okay. And I totally respect it. I think this brother is ahead of the game in terms of worldview analysis, because you can also think of a hypothesis as a worldview. So I'm glad that this brother point.
I'm not using the word hypothesis in the terms of a worldview. I'm using hypothesis in its purest sense. I'm using hypothesis as an if-then statement. So it's a question statement, right? If this is true, then this would be true. If then, a pure hypothesis, not necessarily a worldview, but something that we can test and measure, something that we can come to understand through logic. If this is the case, then this should be the case, right? If I move this, then this will happen. A pure hypothesis, not necessarily a full-out worldview, just a hypothesis. So if there is an all-loving, all-powerful, all-knowing God, then we should expect to see this. If that God had a son that came and lived on earth and did this, that, and the third, then we should expect to see this, right? There were a lot of things about the normal Christian worldview that in my if-thens, for example, I noticed that in modern day Christianity, a lot of Christians, they say, hey man, we done with the Old Testament. We are done with the Old Testament. We are under a new covenant. We are under a new covenant. That's fine. I can take that. But if that's the case, then why did Jesus say, think not that I came to destroy the law? Right? Every jot and tittle of the law must be fulfilled. These are the if-thens that I'm asking. Right? Now, and all the apologetics I've ever heard about that didn't answer that question for me. It just didn't make sense to me. It made more sense in the Hebraic sense to say, oh no, what we're doing is we're taking the law and we're adding Jesus to it, that he is the goal of the Torah. That made more sense to me. That made okay, because now I can at least harmonize the Old Testament with the New Testament, because for a while I couldn't even harmonize the two. They just didn't make any sense to me. But from a Hebraic perspective, it did make more sense that we were now harmonizing, that we're not throwing the old covenant away. We're just adding a thing to it. We're renewing it. We're revitalizing it. Oh, okay. That made more sense than the normal Protestant Christian, westernized Protestant Christian worldview, or hypothesis, I should say. The normal westernized Christian hypothesis. This hypothesis made more sense, right? Okay, all right. Let me keep going.
Pointed out that he was viewing Christianity in terms of hypothesis, and the reason for this is that every single person alive today has a worldview. So whenever you hear him say hypothesis, worldview, just think of worldview.
But I'm not saying
Okay.
worldview.
Every single person has a worldview for which they interpret the world around them and their experiences. Okay.
There's
A person
not my
worldview
interpretation of
also
things.
a person worldview also deals with the categories of theology, anthropology, metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, and things like that. And it functions as a person's eyeglasses, which helps them see the world. We get this as a conceptual scheme by which they make judgments about also other worldviews. So when this brother says that the Christian hypothesis was not answering enough questions, I'm happy on the one hand that he's looking at it from a big picture viewpoint, and I'm curious to know just what these questions were that were not being answered.
Okay, let me start with question number one. Here are a few questions. Again, I'm looking at this as an if-then statement. If the world was covered to the top of the highest mountain by 15 cubits with water, where did all that water come from? Where did all that water go? And why is there no evidence of said water now? Question one. If the earth was made 6,000 years ago by incantation and a spell, how is it that we see a light that comes from billions of light years away? Question two. I could go on for, I got 100 of these. If God is love and love is not jealous, and I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, how is that possible? Question three. I could keep going with these. I have a ton of these. Right? That the normal everyday Christian hypothesis just doesn't answer. They just don't answer, which is okay. I'm not here to tell you not to be a Christian. Not at all. I got no disrespect for those who believe whatever they believe. It just didn't answer those questions for me. Okay? That didn't answer those questions for me. I remember one time I was talking to my mama about hell. And I was trying to figure out who was going to hell. And I was like, well, if all us going to heaven, if everybody who believes in Jesus going to heaven, that means that the Seventh-day Adventists and the Christian going to heaven together. Okay, the Seventh-day Adventists and the Christian going to heaven together. Well, what day would the Sabbath be? Is there going to be a Seventh-day Adventist / Jewish Sabbath and then a Protestant Christian Sabbath? Will we find out that one of us was wrong? Well, if one of us was wrong, did we disrespect God by being wrong? Do we get like the back seat because we didn't get that part right? How do you rectify that? That was that's a basic, simple face value question. Well, if anybody can go to heaven, if a rapist and a robber and all those people can go to heaven, then that means that the rapist and the rapee are going to be in heaven together. That don't seem like justice to me. That seems a bit weird. Just because we both believe in the same God, we get to go to the same heaven, even though that person abused that person. Where's the justice in that? Right? Where is the I couldn't find the justice in it. That didn't make sense to me. Right? I'm not saying if it makes sense to you, then that's fine. I'm talking about to me. That didn't make sense to me. Right? So so you mean to tell me that Hitler going to heaven and the Jews he killed going to hell? That's weird. Or let's say that those Jews converted to Christianity. Hitler going to heaven and he gonna see the 6 million people he killed, and they're gonna have to see him. That seemed a bit weird to me. Right? To me, that don't seem like justice. Okay. All right. Okay. So these are the questions that I had. Right? That I thought, well, that's not the hypothesis doesn't work. Okay.
Furthermore, and this is for the audience, when we are choosing a worldview, a person must deal with what I think is 3 serious questions.
Okay, 3 serious questions.
On what grounds can a person make a reasoned choice among worldviews? Which worldview is likely to be true? And what is the best and most promising way to approach these overall questions? Furthermore, when faced with these questions, people are faced with the choice among competing hypotheses of worldview. The person has the responsibility to choose the one that, when applied to the whole of reality, gives us the most coherent picture of the world.
This is my point exactly. Now, I won't argue a word he just said that. If I'm picking a worldview, it seems most reasonable to me. I agree with this whole the fuck heartedly. And I gratuitously added the word fuck in there just because they edited out the fucks that I said earlier. So, but it seems as though it is best to me to take a worldview that considers the whole of reality, right? It says which of these worldviews is most likely to be true, right? Which of these is the most like? Now, again, I cannot prove to you that there is no God, nor would I ever try. But to me, which one of these seems more likely? Right. When a baby dies of cancer, and that don't happen all the time. I guess it does happen every day, but I don't see it happen around me every day. But when a baby dies of cancer, which of these makes more sense to me? That cancer is something that naturally occurs and it just happens sometimes to babies, or that a God planned on that baby to have cancer, brought that baby to life just to torture the baby to death to teach some random person on the other side of the world a lesson. It is, which of those is more likely to be true? More likely to, okay, all right, okay. To me, it seems as though cancer is just a horrible disease that happens, and we're working to fix that. We're working to fight that right now. Right, we're working to change the outcome of that as we speak. Right, it just seems more likely that it occurs naturally. Okay, all right, okay. Let me keep going.
And so I would like to know more about this brother's process that he went through and why he thinks whatever he's subscribing to is consistent, coherent, and livable. I'd like to know.
Here's the thing about it being livable. I'm alive. So it's 100% livable. Continuing.
Right. Facts, man. Facts. I'm going to actually kind of repeat some of that because I have a slide here on the show.
He made a slide.
Excuse me, just a second. But while I'm doing that, I think there's a little bit of clipping coming through on your audio. So I'm not sure what can be done to adjust it. But that being said, cool. But actually, I do. Before I even get to my slide, man, I want to shout out my dude. I was about to give his government name, DJ Noble. I don't know if he wants to give his government name or not, but shout out to my man DJ Noble's in the chat, man. We've been kicking it since forever, man. So he actually has a podcast as well, man. Matter of fact, Noble, put your podcast in the chat, bro, so people can subscribe to it as well, man. I'll be having him on the show hopefully pretty soon. Shout out to my man Apologists in Detroit. I'm gonna see him next week. I'm mad at him though because they're about to go see that Shang-Chi movie without me, man. But I'm gonna forgive him though. I'm gonna forgive him. But yeah, let me get to this slide right quick because actually I wanted to echo some of the things that you said. Let me bring that up now. All right,
Adam, just take your time. I'm gonna have to do a quick reset real quick.
Okay, cool. So
look at this nice ass picture they found.
So when it comes to
this is a nice
things
he
was pointing out, actually I'll keep rolling till MJ Jackson comes back.
That picture wasn't on Sunday.
First of all, I think that there's a misconception about the biblical worldview, even amongst Christians, right? There's this idea that
I want to take some time to say thank you for finding this nice ass picture to go with this red backdrop. Look at me matching the backdrop. Look at that. So now I want to take some time to say thank you. I can't put the brothers down if I can't say thank you. Look at that. I got my Birmingham Barons hat on. One time for that. That's a red and black plaid shirt to go with his red and black background. This is nice. So shout out to the brothers for that. Shout out to them for being considerate and making sure that I look good. I appreciate that part. One time for the one time. Can't be a hater all my life. You know what I'm saying? Let me get right. So, shout out to that. You know what I'm saying? A suwu to the beehive at one time for that too. You know what I'm saying? Shout out all the bloods in the building. Okay. All the bloods in the biddy. Okay.
Having an inquiring mind is antithetical to what it means to be a Christian.
I never said that
Christians are mistaken about that. And then I think that there are atheists seemingly like
I never said that having an acquired mind was antithetical to being a Christian. I never said that. I never put that forth as an argument. I did not say that. That is not what I said. But let's go ahead and continue to listen to it.
Sebastian Cole here, who are mistakenly critical of Christianity along those lines.
I'm mistaking.
But again, as Matt Jackson was pointing out, is when you think about what he calls the Christian hypothesis, right? The first thing that came to my mind is hypothesis for what, right? Because when I look at the biblical worldview, I'm not just looking for an explanation, say, for like the physical world, and that's it. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of a worldview that answers reality's biggest questions in various different aspects. So actually, I divide it up into three categories, and there's different ways we can do it. Matt Jackson just did, but maybe a slightly different look at it. When you think about the natural world, there's tons of questions that we can ask about the natural world. We can think about the order, function, and complexity that we find in the different regions of the natural world.
Okay.
But then a whole different realm of exploration would be questions about the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now some, of course, naturalists might want to argue that, but nevertheless, when you dig into the literature in terms of like what is the mind and all those kinds of things, you're going to have to delve into more than just science. I'm saying you have philosophers who have a great deal to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
Even those who kind of straddle the fence between neuroscience and philosophy have a lot to say about it. So you're venturing beyond just the hard sciences. But even beyond that, abstract objects. I'm thinking about things like mathematics, the rules of logic, logic itself, aesthetics. What does it mean for something to be beautiful? I could have put morality up there. What does it mean for something to be good, objectively good, or objectively evil?
Okay, let me stop it right there. Okay, so here are the things that you break down: the natural world, the order and function and complexity, which science can definitely answer; the mind, which is definitely a product of the brain. We know this because you do not have a mind without a brain. We know that we can affect your mind by affecting your brain through chemical compounds. So the mind is how we interpret a world, and then abstracts are a fruit of the mind. Abstracts are a fruit of the mind, which also help us interpret the natural world. But all of these things are natural. There is nothing supernatural about an abstract concept like mathematics. Mathematics are natural. They're just abstract. Right. Okay. And again, this is not to say to throw away your God. I want to make sure I say this. I'm just saying that if I had to look for one thing, my man earlier said, when you're looking for a worldview, you should be looking for one that answers the whole, right? Or as much of it as humanly possible, because I don't know if any worldview could answer the whole of the question, but one of these worldviews answers way more about this than another. Okay, now watch. He gonna go on and say something else. Watch this.
We think about a hypothesis, like in terms of particularly the way the MJ was framing it. I like what he was saying about how we can use it in some ways interchangeably with the term worldview.
Although I don't think that's fair.
There's more to it than just science, but I think as you'll see as the video goes on, that what this gentleman is putting on the table really amounts to what we might call scientism, what I'm saying, where every question is relegated down to what is demonstrable scientifically. And if you can't bring something into that realm, then all of a sudden you've got a problem with your worldview. But,
no, I didn't say you had a problem with your worldview. And I want to make sure I say this. Okay, I want to make sure I say this. Because my man brought up epistemology just a second ago. And I'm about to get out of this. So this actually took me longer than I wanted it to. But my man brought up epistemology just a minute ago. And epistemology is basically, how did you come to believe that? Right? Or how do you know what you know? Okay. If you tell me you know something, it is only fair for me to ask you to demonstrate what you know. How do you know that? Show me that. You know that to be true? How do you know that? Can you show that to me? Okay. Now, it's one thing if I say I don't know something. Okay. All right, boom. You just don't know it. But once you assert that you know something, you cannot be mad if someone asks you, how do you know that? The burden, you've made the positive assertion. The burden of proof is on the one making the positive assertion. How do you know that? It's only a fact. How do you know that? If you ask me how I know what I know, I should be able to take you through all of I should be able to walk you back. Here's how I know that. Here, let's start here. Let's go backwards. Boom. That's where I got to. Now, there are some questions that there are no answers to, like questions of morality. There are no answers to morality. My man asked, how could something be objectively good? It's very difficult to define objective good. How do we know what is objectively good? Good is going to be subjective to whatever we make it. I do not, there is no such thing as an objective aesthetic. What you think of as pleasing to the eyes, I might think is ugly. What you think tastes delicious, I might think is disgusting. What you think is warm and cuddly, I might find aggravating. Good is not objective. It's not objective. It is subjective to whoever's experiencing it. No such thing as objective good. Now, there are things that we collectively may say are bad. We might agree more on a certain thing than another, but it's still subjective to the culture. It's subjective to the people making the right. There's no such thing as good or bad if we're not here. And what's objective would exist whether I'm here to experience it or not. If I died today, rocks would still be here. But if I died today, the way I feel about cheesecake would die with me. Rocks are objectively there. Good or bad is not. It lives and dies with me. It's subject to the human mind. Okay. Now keep in mind, he's here to correct the many errors of the black atheist, Sebastian Cole. Got a long way to go, bro. Got a long way to go. And I'm gonna come back and do a part 2 of this video someday. And they got into part 2 to this video. And that video 2 hours long. Jesus Christ. But so far, oh wait, I gotta show you one more thing. God damn it. I didn't even want to have to do this. Wait, but I wanted to show you.
In fact, we're talking about hypothesis, particularly for the type that you would want to live your life by. There's much more to be accounted for.
I do not
just
live my
beyond
life by atheism.
the physical world. So I want to say too, he's going to say a lot about science. I want to kind of deal with this up front because then I won't have to keep stopping and pulling these things later. But I just want y'all to kind of be on the lookout for how he positions science as being antithetical to or contrary to, religion, and then particularly Christianity. This is going to be something that he does, throughout each of the clips to some extent or another. And again, I think this is something that to some extent, I think sometimes Christians are mistaken as well in terms of understanding where the whole project of science fits into the biblical worldview. Is it the case that you can't earnestly engage in scientific pursuits?
No.
And at the same time, be a Bible believing Christian?
That's
is that
not
really
the case.
True? Well, obviously not, because you have several Christians, both past and present, who were committed to their scientific work, and at the same time believed that there was a God.
I totally agree with you.
And particularly the Christian God who presided over it all. So I'm thinking about somebody like, actually, I'll just start on our own heritage tradition. Like George Washington Carver, for example. Yeah. He's an underappreciated, scientist, here in the American tradition, who was a devout Christian.
Very much so.
And yet he made several, he was no stranger to the lab. He made several, findings that are still valuable today.
I agree.
MJ's back. So, he was certainly somebody who valued Christianity, his Christian worldview, and didn't see it as being contrary to his scientific endeavor. I
agree.
Now, with that being said, we can even go back to really the birthing of the, I guess we can call it, modern science. How we see science worked out in our society today.
The scientific method
got a whole
to us by
lecture on my channel. So
a Muslim man.
But several of the big wigs, or the big dogs, if you will, the OGs of the modern science era, were Christians. Whether it be Isaac Newton, certainly was a Christian.
Isaac Newton was
Francis Bacon, to whom
was a Christian.
Darwin was a Christian. Some people credit that to him and the way that he went about doing his work and kind of organized experiments and things like that.
I agree with this.
Francis Bacon for that. We can think about Johannes Kepler. We can think about people today, like John Polkinghorne, who was an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
We could talk about another gentleman, I don't know why, Francis Collins.
Yep.
Who
Human Genome Project
presided over the recent Human Genome Project.
I remember
You know
that.
what I'm saying? He professes to be a Christian.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, past and present, we have several people who clearly saw no contradiction between
nor do I.
Being a Christian and
Right.
earnestly pursuing science. Now, I said all that to say,
Right.
I do believe that scientific exploration fits very well within the biblical world. It's not something that we need to relegate to the secularists to involve themselves in. Actually, I would ground scientific pursuits in the Imago Dei, right?
Okay.
I talk about this all the time, and actually, I'll probably just put it in the description of this video, the talk that I do on the Imago Dei.
Mm-hmm.
But an aspect of being made in the image of God is this assignment that we have
mm-hmm.
to steward the earth
mm-hmm.
in a way that reflects God's nature and his will for creation,
mm-hmm.
right? God intends for us to harness this physical world and make something out of it.
How does he know that? How does he know that? How does he know that God intends for us to harness this physical world and make something out of it? How does he know that? How does he know that? And what does that have to do with astrophysics? How do you know that, sir? You have inferred such, but how do you know that there is even a God? How do you know this God's intentions? How do you know this God's intentions for you? How do you know that? How do you know that you're made in the image of God? If we look at fossil records, you seem to be made more in the image of an ape. How closely related in image are apes to God? As a matter of fact, that body structure with the 5 fingers, 5 toes goes all the way back to shrews, right? The original body structure of the main mammal body structure goes back to like shrews and rodents. Damn near. God looks like a rat. How do you know that? How do you know that? If you ask me, how do I know the body structure of mammals comes from shrews and rats? I could just go show you the fossil record. How do you know that that's the image of God? How do you know that? Right. And it is that kind of bias that, and not, again, I am not here to say that whatever drives you to be a scientist is what drives you to be a scientist. Have a good time. And you can be a Christian scientist, you can be an atheist scientist, a Muslim scientist, whatever. No one cares what you believe in science. All we care is, do your models have predictive power? Nobody cares what you believe. Do your models have predictive power? How good is your model at predicting future data? That's all that matters. I don't care what you believe. I am not here, and there is nothing that I said in this video, and I'm gonna stop the video at this point. I'll do a part 2 to it another day. But there is nothing that I say in this video that would cause anybody to believe that a Christian can't be a good scientist, or a scientist can't be a good Christian. Right? What I said, and I was specifically talking to Jeremiah, what I said is that in Jeremiah's case, and in most believers' cases, that they are holding on to the God of the gaps theory. They are worshiping what they don't know. Instead of being able to provide a model of their own, they are picking at things that they don't understand about the model that exists. And I'm sticking to that. How do you know what you're saying? You are simply making assertions. You cannot back that up anywhere. How do you know we are made in the image of God? How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that God intends for you to do anything? How do you know that? Otherwise, you have simply made an assertion that you cannot prove. You have simply made an assertion that you cannot prove. And it's and a part of what caused me to become, or what helped me down this path to where I currently sit, let me say it that way, what helped me down this path is eventually I started to ask myself, how do I know that? When I'm trying to tell gay people what to do with their bodies, how the fuck do I know what they supposed to do? How do I know that? How am I supposed to tell two grown folk what the fuck to do with their bodies? I did not say that makes God unreal. Having unanswered questions make God no more unreal than having unanswered questions makes God real. Couple it with what I said earlier. If I'm looking at the whole of my reality, which of these is more plausible? Right? So if I make a positive claim, then I need positive proof of said claim. A negative claim, all I got to do is just show you that the evidence isn't there, right? Like if I said, I'm not in Alabama right now. If you said, well, prove to me you're not in Alabama. All I got to do is just say, look at Alabama. You won't find me there, right? Look throughout Alabama. You won't find me there. That's the only way I can prove to you that I'm not in Alabama. If I make a negative claim, all I have to do is just show you that the evidence isn't there for it. I'm not in Alabama. The only way I can prove to you that I'm not in Alabama is by saying, look through Alabama. Do you see me there? Is there any trace of my being there? Okay. That being said, the unanswered questions, what I'm saying is there'll always be questions that ain't answered. The fact that questions ain't answered is no more reason to believe in something than it is to not believe in something. What I'm saying is that when I looked at the hypothesis, one of these hypotheses worked better with what I saw. Right? One of these hypotheses worked better with what I saw. Right? Taria, I totally asked God too. I didn't always believe there wasn't a God. I totally asked God. All right, okay. That being said, upon recognizing that I didn't get an answer from a God that should care about me enough to tell me the answer to that. Well, at least I would assume that the answer that God would know, hey man, this kid's belief is slipping. I should answer this for him because I want him to believe in me because I love him enough to not send him to hell. I give him this answer, if nothing else. If I don't answer nothing else for him, I answer this for him because I care about his soul. So I asked. And upon getting no answer, I knew. Okay. But that's just for me. That has nothing to do with Taria. I want to make sure I say that again. That's got nothing to do with you. Right? That's got nothing to do with you. The measure where which Taria is convinced is great for Taria. Won't hear me tell you not to be convinced. Be convinced. That has nothing to do with me. Doesn't change my life at all. Doesn't hurt me at all. Doesn't help me at all. Yeah. So I that doesn't give me any ill will against you. Doesn't make me think any less of you or any more of you. You're just a person who is convinced of that. Don't bother me at all. I'm just not convinced of that. And that's okay. That's quite all right. Right? Like that's not, I can live to be 100. I could die today. I'm okay with that. And I would assume if there's an all loving, all just, all wonderful God somewhere, then that God would understand it about me. Right? Like that. That God knew I would walk this path at some point. And he must be all right with it. Yeah. Right? That God must be all right with it. And should probably let me in the kingdom because all I did was what I was supposed to do. All I did was what he made me to do. If there is a God, then my atheism is completely fulfilling his purpose. If this is the God that y'all believe in. if there's this all-powerful, all-knowing God, then my atheism completely fulfills its purpose. And then I can do about it. Right? And that don't bother me. That don't bother me at all. Right? Right. So I don't have to keep living or anything like that. My mind doesn't have to change. And neither does yours. You get what I'm saying? Like, my mind doesn't have to change, and neither does yours. In this particular position, I'm okay. I'm okay. And so are you. Because if I'm right and there is no God, it doesn't hurt you that there isn't one. Pascal's wager is fulfilled. Right? If you're right and I'm wrong, then I still feel like, oh, that guy got to show me some mercy, because I only did what he made me to do. I was obedient. I believed what I was convinced of. Right? And if he had really wanted me to be convinced, he would have given me evidence that would convince me. Right? Cool. He didn't. As of now, he hasn't. Okay. So I'm just doing what he made me to do. If you're right. And if I'm an obedient child, then I should go to heaven. I'm only doing what God called me to do. Right? So I win either way. And you win either way. If I'm right and there is no God, man, what did it hurt you? You just went to church a few times. What's so bad about that? Right? Right? Okay. That's all I'm really getting at, kids. Right? And that's all I'm really getting at. The majority of y'all are not going to become Christian extremists that go shoot up churches. I don't know any atheist extremists that go shoot up churches, but hey, just because I don't know them don't mean they don't exist. I just ain't never read about them. So that being said, if you're right and there is a God, then that God must show me mercy, because I only thought through life the way God gave me the ability to think through life. I didn't add nothing to it, take nothing away from it. I just, with the brain that I got, this is what I came up with. Right? With the brain that God gave me, if there is a God, the brain that God gave me led me to this. If there isn't one, you'll be fine too. We all gonna be fine either way. Get what I'm saying? Anyway, hopefully I get a chance to talk to those brothers. And Jason, if there is a God and you think that God is an asshole, that God must be merciful to you, because all you did was process the world the way you saw it. The way God gave you the world to see. If you think you're an asshole, you got every right to come to that conclusion. Right? Taria, I've had many a moment, dear heart. and I say that with the biggest smile on my face as possible. I don't know if you've been through what I've been through, and I hate to compare struggles. You understand me? So I'll just say it this way: I've had many a moment, and I'm thankful for them. I really am thankful for them. Again, you're not talking to somebody who was kind of a believer. You did. I wasn't kind of a believer. I believed enough to really do it. Like, do it. You dig? So I'm no disrespect to that. You get what I'm saying? But don't belittle my life. Don't do it that way. Don't treat it as though I've never had an encounter with God. It's not that. I've had many an encounter. And I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful. Just not convinced it was God. You did. So all those things being said, hopefully I'll get a chance to actually talk to those guys. I'm trying to set up something where I can get on the show and talk to them, because I don't want to misrepresent me and I don't want to misrepresent them. And sometimes these kinds of back and forths can be, even if they're in the most genuine sense, sometimes you do better just to hear it from the person's mouth, get the context in which they're putting it, so that you can understand them better. Anyway, I'm glad to have my channel back. I probably won't keep it for very long because they're going to put me off for something else. So, but thank y'all for tuning into this, and I'm going to catch up with you another time. But for now, look at the coons.